When buying new equipment, you've got good intentions to use them, but as we all know, it doesn't always end that way. What you're looking at is a tiller or a cultivator that was given away, but the biggest question is, why would someone do that? Now the answer is probably mundane, so it's not that interesting, but what about when it happens to other expensive machines? In today's video, we're going to be looking at this not so common Mantis tiller and try to get it working again. We're also going to be talking about why so many machines end up like this one, which looks to have been unused for a long time. However, I will say that it looks to be in great mechanical condition, and even though the Mantis sticker is faded out, the plastics haven't. Obviously, you can't judge a machine like this one on looks alone. That would make it too easy when it comes to buying used equipment. But after slowly pulling on the rope and feeling how well it's fighting back, I'm happy to say that this engine is very healthy and worth fixing. Of course, this method is not scientific by any means, but it does give you an idea of what's going on with the engine. But just to let you know, if the pull rope is too easy to pull, then the engine might be too far gone to be saved. But now that we know it's not broken, we'll try starting it after priming it with some fuel. Now that's what I call a great sounding engine, and I can't wait to hear it after we fix it. So if you are worried about your engine being too worn out, then I would recommend using a compression tester. These will measure how much pressure the engine can make, and the higher the reading, the better it is. But if the engine is worn out, the reading will be lower than ideal, and that's when we have to make some tough choices. So even though we know this engine is in good health, I'd still like to know just how healthy it is. That bit of information could give us the confidence we need when we go and sell it. Once the compression tester has been installed, we'll just pull on the rope several times. So on this gauge, the numbers we're going to look at are the orange ones, and as you can tell, the reading is about 130 psi, which is not bad at all. Now because this machine has been unused for a long time, the next step is to take the carb off and inspect it and see if we need to service it. I didn't show it in the video, but I did put fuel into the tank and tried to start it. However, it didn't work out like it should. The trap that a lot of consumers will find themselves in is that they'll incorrectly put up a machine for long-term storage, which could lead to this very problem. And if that is the case, you can either take the easy way out and just replace the carb, or save yourself a bit of money and service it yourself. It's up to you as to which one you choose. However, you may not be comfortable doing what I'm doing to this carb. So while I'm inspecting this carb, let's talk about the road that leads a lot of consumers to this very spot, and that is leaving a machine alone either on purpose or on accident. So tillers or cultivators are what I call seasonal tools, and I'm quite certain you already have several machines in mind that fit this category. Now the most recent one for me was the snowblower that I haven't used in years that I finally used a couple of months ago. The machine that was before that one was my giant walk-behind leaf blower, which only sees action for about 1 month out of the year. And the very last one would be my backup generator, which I try and start at least 3 to 4 times a year. And as you might have guessed, with such infrequent usage, sometimes accidents happen and you forget to do what you're supposed to do before you put them up. So as for this Mantis tiller, my guess is that the carb finally failed after not being used for long periods of time. So yes, the type of fuel and oil being used might also have an effect as well, but excessive storage time can be devastating to these types of fuel systems. Now you wouldn't think that gasoline could cause this kind of problem, but combine that with tiny passages in the carb and oxidation, then it could be really bad for it. My recommendation to get around this is to either keep using the machine on a regular schedule to reduce idle time or run it until the fuel system is empty. Now there is a third option, and that's to use special canned fuel, but it's quite expensive and most aren't willing to pay for it. But I have seen it work well on a forgotten Echo Edger that was left in storage for about 2 years. The carb had just been serviced and the canned fuel was already in the tank, and that's exactly how it was put up and forgotten. Now I am quite the cheapskate, so I'm not going to pay for canned fuel, but for someone else it might be perfect for them. But I do have a creative method to help prevent this problem, and it won't cost you all that much. The normal way would be to use canned fuel the entire time you use your machine, but instead of that, let's use it near the end of the season instead. So how does this work then? Well, if we're talking about string trimmers, I would use your regular mixed fuel during the summer, but in the last month, start using canned fuel instead. It would make it a lot easier to do if you knew exactly when we were going to stop using it, but close enough should be fine. Otherwise, if you don't have an idea, you might end up using more cans of fuel until the day you stop using it. But what if it's not a seasonal machine? What if it's a machine like a post hole digger or a stump grinder where you're not sure when you'll stop using it? Well, in that case, you'll have to judge it based on the time it'll take to do the job, which is going to be tough to do. That means you could end up using a couple of tanks of regular fuel and then 1 or 2 tanks of canned fuel. So why are we worried about using too much canned fuel then? Well, if I didn't mention it already, canned fuel is several times more expensive than regular fuel. And if you're not careful, you could spend a good part of your paycheck on several cans of engineered fuels. Now, if you make a whole lot of money, this won't be an issue, but then again, if you made a whole lot of money, why are you doing your own lawn care? Now, of course, a wealthy consumer can always do their own lawn work, but I hear it's a lot easier paying someone else to do it for you. Now that we've got the carb back together and installed onto the engine and with some conventional mixed fuel in the tank, we'll try and start it. Hopefully something good happens here. Well, the good news is that the engine starts and runs. However, it didn't stay running when squeezing the trigger. Now, typically when this happens, it means the carb is not giving enough fuel to the engine and we'll need to make some adjustments to the carb. We can also help it out by turning in the idle adjustment screw, but in this case, we'll need to turn out the L screw on the carb for more fuel as well. I'm going to let you know that this part is not an exact science and it takes experience to tune a carb. Some are going to tell you that replacing the carb with a new one would allow you to skip having to tune it, but sometimes that's not the case. And unless you bought a very expensive original manufacturer's carb, then you might get away from having to tune it. However, if you instead bought a $15 carb from the aftermarket, then there's a really good chance that you might have to tune it. Now, if you don't feel comfortable doing that and you're worried about making a mess out of it, then you might have to do something unthinkable and ask for help. I would recommend you asking a friend who's done it once or twice before and then just watch them as they do it. Now, you're not going to believe me, but that extra experience you just had will make it 10 times easier for you the next time you try to do it for yourself. I do have to let you know that even having the experience I had, the first time I tried it, the results were still not that great. And it took quite a long time with multiple attempts to get it right, so don't expect any miracles. I will say that some will have no trouble understanding how to tune their carbs, while others will need extra time, and there's nothing wrong with that. Just so long as they understand how the fuel adjustment screws affect the engine will make tuning the carb a lot easier. There is one aspect that's essential when tuning a carb, and that is putting a real load on the engine. That's because once there's a real load on it, it could require further tuning to make it run like it should. Now typically, it just means adding more fuel to the engine while under load, but as usual, it may not be that easy. But let's say you don't want to deal with all this tuning, and I can't blame you since I don't care for it either. My advice then would be to read your owner's manual on how to store your machine, and maybe, just maybe, you can avoid this hassle. Now, if you don't have your owner's manual, then you should be able to find the scanned copy online. However, if you had success storing your machine year after year, then keep doing what you're doing and don't let anyone change the way you're doing it. But for those that don't have a method yet, then your owner's manual is the way to go. To be honest, I don't use the manual's instructions since I've had a lot of good results doing it the way I am. So what's my method? Simple, run the engine until the fuel system is empty, but as a backup, I would use a fuel stabilizer for those times I forget to do it. The reason I use a fuel stabilizer is that with as many machines that I have, sometimes one of them will get lost in the shed. And after having to redo the service I already did to it because I forgot about it is enough to make me just a bit more cautious now. Now I know I make it sound simple because it is, however it still takes effort which sometimes is hard to find. So if you want to use a machine that you might only use once for an hour or so, then you might want to take some precautions to make sure it'll be able to start up the next time you need to use it. Otherwise, be prepared to pay someone else to fix it or learn how to do it yourself, but I've got to let you know it's not as easy as it looks. So my question is, do you have any tools in your shed that you only use once a year, and if so, what is it? Thank you for watching. I really do appreciate your time here. Please feel free to ask me any questions about this project or about your own projects, and I hope to see you in the next video.